Okay, we're up to Ois Daled. He's continuing explaining the pasuk of Hashemayim Kisi, and now he's explaining the rest of the pasuk V'ha'oretz Hadoim Ragloi, that the earth is like this pedestal for my feet. What does that mean in Avodas Ha'odom? What does this mean in the service of man? That the earth is the pedestal. He's going to talk about that that's the level of bittul, the level of Kabbalah's oil, to be mamshich, that it should come down milmailo, just like a person lowers themselves in a way of bittul, so too we want that come down from the higher level in Asiya, in below. That comes through ha'oretz, through the level of bittul, that the earth, that is nimshach hadoim ragloi, that becomes the pedestal for my feet. He's going to explain, so what does that mean? Hainu lahashpil es atzmai. That represents when a person lowers themselves. What does it mean he lowers himself? He lowers himself to say, Mi anoichi lihiskarif. Who am I to become close? Basically, he's trying to come close to Hashem. He says, who am I that I want to become close? Like the pasuk says, this is a pasuk with regards to Moshe Rabbeinu when his face was shining. It says, "Vayira migeshes Elam," that he was afraid from coming close to him. That's the a feeling of how could I come close to someone at a high madrega. So that's one idea of oretz, of lowering yourself. And also, the Torah itself, Gam HaTorah, Yordo v'nislapsho b'levushim gashmim. The Torah descended and dressed up in physical garments. So, therefore, Rak b'chinas soim tosim alecha melech. So, you just accept it. Soim tosim alecha melech means place a king upon you. It's not your position to become close, to understand, to grasp, use your intellect to connect to Hashem through high madregas. No, only soim tosim alecha melech. Just put a king over you, accept Hashem, which is oil malchus shamayim, v'oil mitzvahs, the yoke of the heavenly kingdom and the yoke of mitzvahs. Kabbalah soil, that's the oretz hadim ragli. What does this accomplish l'mayla when the person's level of bittul? Ukmeikein ma'orer l'mayla. So likewise, he arises above sheyored midas malchus lahachyos nivroim. That the measure of malchus comes down, descends to vitalize created being. Just like you lower yourself, midah keneged midah, so measure for measure, Hashem, so to speak, lowers himself to come down to creation. V'zeu k'moshol haregel sheyeredes lamato mehakisei. And that is like the example of a foot. When you're sitting, your feet go below the chair. So you're sitting on the chair, but the feet go down. So when we say ha'oretz hadoim ragloi, the Eibishter's pedal for his feet, the Eibishter's feet in this context means that the Eibishter is coming down below the kisei into the nivroim, into the created being to vitalize them. V'ayin ma'shekosuv b'zeh b'dibur hamaschil v'tachas raglov k'maisa livna sasapim. So he says, "Belochein binyan hamalchus is mahagvuris, v'zo machasodim." In other words, in order to be able to come down from to the lower level, you need the level of gevuris. In this case, the level of bittul, the level of Kabbalah Shel Malchus Shemayim Ve'il Mitzvahs. That builds, that brings down the hamshocha that we're saying, brings down Mil Mailo, that Midas Malchus comes down. This, therefore, Binyan Malchus is built from gevuris. Zomach Sodim. It's going to explain. Bechinas Malchus ein melech b'le'om. When we talk about the level of Malchus, we know there cannot be a king without a people. You need a people. He needs to have a people in order to be king over them. So there needs to be others. And also we know another saying of our sages is Dino de Malchuso Dino. Basically, that the law of the government is the law, which means that the Malchus is associated with the level of din, with the level of gevuris. And that's why Malchus is also called an altar, a mizbeach. The pasuk says, "Va'eish tomi tukad al hamizbeach," that there is a constant fire on the mizbeach. Again, fire is gevura. The nikra ishot tichlo dochilchulu. In the Zohar, it's called a fire, tichla of techelis, a colored or a that consumes the korbanos. That's the level of fire, level of gevuris. Ulupamim nikra b'chinas neir. Sometimes we also will call it the level of a lamp, as we say behal loischo as haneris. So also, but it's a fire, whether it's a fire on the constant on the mizbeach, whether it's a neir, it's all fire, it's all gevuras. That's all associated with malchus. Sheyesh kamo gevuras shoinim minim and minim shoinim. There are various kinds of gevuras and various kind of timtzumim in the Sfiras HaMalchus. Avol haklal, but the rule is, generally speaking, shebinyono min hagevuris, that it's built from gevuris. Al kein hamshocha zu hu al yidei kabbalah seilchulu, and that's why this hamshocha, how could you bring down, since it is gevuris and kabbalah soil, you're accepting the yoke, that's a level of bitla, level of gevura. And that's why you need kabbalah soil to bring down, to build up malchus, to bring down from the Sfiras HaMalchus. V'ayim ashekosu soiv dibra maschil zocher es shesheros alocha amalek. V'hinei, bezoyar pikudei dafresh mam aleph, Amud Aleph Pirush, over there in the Zohar, in Pikud, he explains, Ubegin the boyilis pashto yatir letato, and because he wants to expand more below, boyilis pashto yat lamar, Omar, that's what the pasuk says, Hadoim Ragloi. Hadoim Ragloi is to bring down further. This is Hadoim Ragloi. The Hainu ki yadua me'inyan Ragleho Yerdis, as we know from the idea Ragleho Yerdis, it's supposed to Ragleho Yerdis, that it goes down, Ragleho Yerdis Movis, that it goes down to the lower levels. So we say Shem Islabeshes Gam Bahasorim Shaloivde Kechovim Lahachiyosel, that it dresses up also in the officers, those are appointed of the Oivde Kechovim, the spiritual representatives, the Sorim, the officers of the Goyim, to vitalize them. So that means that from Kedusha, it descends below, so it goes even to the Ayin Sorim, to give them their vitalization. Avo bizman beis hamikdash, lo hoysam mislabeshes bahem. Then it would not dress up in them, in the Beis Hamikdash. Only in the Golus, after the Churban Beis Hamikdash, is where they're vitalized. But the time of the Beis Hamikdash, Lochein Nikra Beis Hamikdash Hadoim Ragle Lekenu. Over there, it's not goes down Ragleho Yerdis. Over there, it's only a Lekenu. The Hadoim, the Ragle is a Lekenu. It's godly still. It doesn't come down. By Mashikosa the Maskil Hine Yofa Be'inyan Hine Ein Hashem Al Yereov Lahatzil Memoves Nafshom Chulu. Val Derech Zeh Mishachor Beis Hamikdash. So Nizman Beis Hamikdash wasn't there. So, but the same thing is we have Mishachor Beis Hamikdash Ein LaKodesh Baruch Hu Elo Dalad Amos Shel Halacha. That becomes the feet, so to speak. The Hadoim Ragloi becomes the halacha, the Torah, the Eibush that has the Alam Shalocha. V'zeu gamkin v'oretz hadim ragli. He eretz nikro Torah Shabal Peh versus Shamayim. Shamayim is Torah Shabiksav, eretz Torah Shabal Peh. And that's the Alam Shalocha. The Alter Rebbe says, Ulai, perhaps Hadoim, the Hadoim Ragloi. So the Ragloi, that's on the ground, that's comes down in the Daladams in the Torah Daladam Shalocha. And maybe the word, what is the Hadoim? Zeu HaParsa Shebevia Atzmei. That's the curtain within Bia itself. Ben Olam Loilam, in between world and world. So there is a Parsa there as well, between Bria and Yitzira, between Sira and Asiya. That's the Hadoim. Oy Heichal Kochim the Yitzira Asiya. Or perhaps the room of the Koche Kodoshim, which is Yitzira and Asiya. Another meaning for the Hadoim. Val derech zeh nemar b'Shabbos im toshish m'Shabbos raglecha. So by Shabbos it says that you should stop m'Shabbos raglecha. Why? It's Shabbos raglecha. Raglecha. So as we're going to learn, because ha'oretz hadoim ragloi, because the regel goes down even lamato. But it's necessary, Toshif Mishabas Raglecha. We have to return, because if it goes down too far, then there could be Nikah to the Chitzonim. By Mashakosu al Pi Hazoyar Pashas Koirach Daf Kufay Chesom Medalev. B'Shaita the boy Yomul is Kachu, when the day is about to become holy, that's on Shabbos. By Mashakosu Divra Maschal Yagel Moshe Be'inyan. Smichas Shabbos and Mlechas HaMishkan. Over there, the closeness of Shabbos is brought down to the work of the Mishkan. So the Mishkan is Hamshocha. Shabbos is resting. Achar Hamshocha tzorich liyas oir chayzer. After the Hamshocha, we need a returning light. Shelo yumshach yoser medai, not to be extended too much. So you have Mishkan, which is Hamshocha, and then you have Shabbos. So that is in Toshiv Mishabbos Raglach. Ba'ayim Hashekosu Al pi Mamer Shmeis Rabba Perik Chav Gimel Al Posik Os Yosher Beinyan. Over there it says Augustus Yosher Chulu. So over there it gives a whole mashal over there that Augustus, the king, Augustus is like the appointed. He sits, the king is standing. He says Os Yosher Moshe, but over there he says the Milas HaYeshivas. What is the advantage of sitting al hamidah sharaglaim nigboim, that the feet go up? When you're standing, the feet are down on the ground, but when you're sitting down, your feet are raised. So the fact that your feet are raised, that's a maila. So they shouldn't go down. The feet shouldn't go down to the places which is not in Kedusha. And this is also, we find various talking about raising the feet. V'zeu al pi shnayim edim yokum dover. Upirish b'rayim hemna. Parsha sheftim daf rejayin hey amud aleph dahainu mashekosu haidoisi b'chem hayoyim es hashemayim v'soretz. What is the edim? It says through the two edim. Basically, the two edim, that's the heavens and the earth. The heavens and the earth, that represents the kiyum of Torah mitzvahs. Because the pasuk says, I have made testimony by you today, the Shemaim V'Haaretz. So that is the Shnayim Edim, the Shnei Edim. And through them, Yokum Dover. Yokum Dover means Malchus will be raised. Kihine Pirush Yokum Dover. What is the meaning of Yokum Dover? Should stand up. Hu Aliyas HaMalchus. That's Malchus being elevated. Liyos Lokimo Mal Yaisa, that it should have a standing up properly. Ukinyan Augustus Yeshem. So when he sits, that's the, as the Medrash said before. Moshekosu beParshas Vayichi, Dafresh Lamates Omad Aleph. Mosel Lamalko, this is a moshel for a king. He was sitting on the chair, on the couch. Ikri Melechilo, that is called the supreme king. But when he descends and he goes to the servants, Melech Zutikri is called the smoking. This is the difference between Shabbos and the weekday. On Shabbos, he's the big king because on Shabbos, Dibur, Malchus, goes up to the level of Tainug Elyon Chochmei, versus the weekday, which he comes down to the Avodim, Melech Zutah Nikro. V'zeu shekosu the positive in Toshiv v'daber dover, that there should not be the level of regular dibur on Shabbos. We learn from that pasuk. V'zeu shekosu v'tokem es dvorecho. You raise dvorecho. That's level of malchus, which is level of dibur. Kitzadik ato. V'kimozu al pi beis b'chinas hanal. How do we raise it? Through the two above mentioned levels. The Shamayim V'Haaretz, Rotze V'Shu. Level of Rotze V'Shu. The two levels of Shamayim V'Haaretz. Shamayim Rotze V'Shu. Shamayim Kisi. That's the Obchinas Melechilo, you know. That's the supreme king. V'Haaretz Hadoim. And the Aretz Hadoim, the pedestal that it shouldn't go too far. So you have Shamayim Kisi raising up to the highest levels we learned before, from the level of Kesed, level of Chol Ma'odcha, all the Amshachas, and then Oretz Hadoim to the level of Bittul. You want to make sure that it doesn't mispashet too much. So there should not be Raglo Yerdis. And that's where the Oretz Hadoim comes in. Kitza. Inyan v'Oretz Hadoim, Chulu. The Eretz Shiflus. The land, Eretz is lower. Shemash Pilas Atzmei B'mchinas Shuv. He lowers himself in a way of Shuv. Return. Val derech zeh. L'maylo. Hamshocha Ba'asiyah. We're mashpil ourselves in a way of Shuv, and above we're ma'orer that it should come down in Asiyah. But we need what is Hadoim Ragloi. Ach tzorich liyos Hadoim Sraflor. We don't want the feet to go down, we want it to be raised. You need the Hadoim, you need that Srafrav, that pedestal. Be'efshar loymar, he says, Shamayim Gan Eden Elyon Kinal. So before we were talking about the higher level of Gan Eden is Shamayim Kisi, through Kisi Dam Shocher, we get into the worlds of into the level of Gan Eden. V'Oretz Gan Eden Hatachten, then with Oretz is the lower level of Gan Eden. That is Shenimshach Mibchinas Raglei Nihi. That comes from the feet, that's the regel, ragloi, from Netzach Hod Yesod. The other one comes from the level of Bina, we learned before, Tiferes the Bina, we learned the higher level of Zoh, all Hashachas, but here we're talking the ragloi is Nehi, which is the idea of Medaligo Mekapetz Chulu, which is the level of the feet, jumping over. And that comes to the level of Gan Eden Hatachten. Ba'adoim, another thing is Gamkim Parsha Shebiviyatzim B'neilam Ve'elu Chulu. That's the Parsha in Biyah itself, between one world and the other world. V'ulai Heichel Kochim Da'asiyah Di Yitzira. Maybe he says it's the Kochim of Asiyah Yitzira. That's the level of Hadoim. Oh, okay. I say, with Ato Tzorich Lahovin, Ian HaHefresh. So now we need to know the difference between Bechinas Hashemayim Kisi V'Oretz Hadoim Ragloi, which we say presently. We have the level of Shemayim Kisi V'Oretz Hadoim Ragloi. And then we have the Bechinas of Hashemayim HaChadoshim, which is the person he's basing himself on. So what's the difference? The Hina Yedua, for it's known, Shagan Eden Hurak Lifi Shor. Gan Eden is only a temporary. Be'ikir Hagamul Hurak Be'elef Hashvi. The main payment for the avodah of Torah mitzvahs is in the 7,000th year. After the 6,000th year, it'll be 7,000th year. That is what is called lemochar lekabel schorim. The next day to get the reward is when? Is the Elef Hashvi. Hine bazeh hamazman, nowadays, in our times, hakoil al yidei isaruso diletato, isaruso dileilo. Everything according to the arousal of below, you get the arousal of above. Shalifi ha'oras hamayim nukvin, that according to the arousal of the feminine water, the mayim nukvim, hu hamshochas hamayim duchurin is the extension of the masculine water. Shu hamshochas hamoichin. That is bringing down the level of Meichin, of Atzilus. And Ulefi HaMeichin, and based according to the Meichin, who are Keser. That's how we're also Mamshel Keser. because the Keser is associated to the Moichin, and we mamshich the Moichin, you mamshich the Keser as well. Shelefi erech hapnimi kachu hamakif. That is the way is the makif. So that means everything comes down in a way, tat Yisrusa Deleilu. Rak, shekeser hazoh ha'omur l'maylo. When we talk about the keser of Zoh, that's the Tiferes de Bina that we discussed before, hu b'chinas gadus. That is in a way of greatness. What does it mean? That the af bereishis brias ha'olamis, even when the world first was created. When Hashem created the world, there was no yet isarusa bereishis ha'olamis. Then it was shahoyesh loi al yidei halo asman. It was not through the elevation of the mayim nukvin sarusa de latato. Afa pikein who al yidei she'olah b'machshove hatainug is by when it went up in machshove, the delight. Ma'alo asman she'i achar kach. Sort of Hashem imagined in his thought, it went up, how much he's going to delight from the fact that there's going to be Mayim Nukim, there's going to be an elevation, there's going to be later on. Mamer, like we say, Bereishis, Bishvil Yisrael, Shenikru Reishis. Bereishis is because of the Yidden who are called Reishis, or Yisrael, Olu B'machshove. So what did they come up in Machshove? Sheyaluma, that they are going to be elevating Mayim Nukvin. That was in the Machshove, the fact that they will be elevating Mayim. V'omer Azal, a sage tells Aposik, Im HaMelech Yoshvu B'Melachtei, that they sat together with the king. Who sat with the king? In the Nasham Tzadikim. So what does this all mean? It all means that's the Nachas Ruach, that's the Tainug from the Avodas Lamat. So basically, now we have the actual Isarusa Dilatato to bring the Sarusa de Leila, but before there was creation, it was in Machshove, the man that they will be bringing up. How do they bring up? And that what the Mayim Nukim is through the level of Chol the level of Keser is Nimshach, and that is the time. That is today. That is Hashemayim Kisi, V'aretzadim Raglu, it's today. But in the future to come, it's written, V'gova me'oid. That this B'chol me'oidcha will be very Gova me'oid is talking about Mashiach. But he says, Gova me'oid, the me'oid will be much greater. This B'chol me'oidcha that we talk now, which is the level of will be greater. Peter Shagam Hamaoid Yugma Berem Hamailus Yoiser Mibchinas Ha'Lov Amshocha Debchinas B'chol Meidecho, more than the elevation and what we extend from the level of B'chol Meidecho is going to be greater than that. It's going to be the Gova Me'oid. Hine Me'oid Oisyeis Odom. The word me'oid have the same letters as Odom. And the idea is ki b'cheit Odom Harishon Yordu Ha'olam is when Odom Harishon sinned, the worlds descended. U'lasid lava yisalu ha'olam is k'moisha hoyu b'koyim b'emes. And in the future to come, the worlds will be elevated. The worlds will be as they really belong. where they belong, their real place. Ayin Zeb Sefer Gilgulim Perikut Zayin. So, first of all, the world will be in a much higher place where it really was in the beginning before Adam HaRishon's sin, who brought the world down. It will go back to its original state. But not just that alone. But there will be also coming down, will extend new souls. Those souls that were not not included in the first man at all. And they are higher and more elevated than all the neshamas that were included in the soul of Adam HaRishon. That these yichidas of these neshamas, these new neshamas that will be created, will be higher of the level of yichida of Atzilus Shabbat Adam HaRishon. That is not Marisha. V'hainu lifi shehem yimshu mipnimius atik, because they will come. Those neshamas come from the inner of Atik. Mashein came b'chol hamshachas achshov hurak michitzenis Atik. That's all michitzenis Atik. Pnimius Atik hulemailo mahashvira v'atika. That's higher than Shir Tikkun. So the whole Shir and Tikkun only starts from the level of Chitzonis Atik. However, Pnimius Atik doesn't have that level. V'huinyan isarusa de la'elo shalamailum isarusa de latata legamri. That is on the level of an arousal of above, which is higher than Isrusa de Tata totally. It's not reachable by Isrusa de Tata. Inyan Hashamayim HaChadoshim Ba'oretz HaChadosha. This is the idea of the new Shamayim and the new Oretz, which is Hamshochas Makifim Upnimim Chadoshim, to bring down Nu makifim nu pnimim shelamayla mashvir v'atiknuchulu, which are higher than the breaking and the correction, which is toyu and tikun atzilus and elmatoyu shehem mad umad chulu, which are mad umad chulu. What says asher aniyoisa? That Hashem does. Asher aniyoisa. They are just standing by from Hashem without the Sirus Tat. Oimdim lefonai means what? Shneis oimdim lefonai lifnei. Lifnei means before. Lifnei haparso, before the parso. Higher than the parso. And also the meaning of lifnei is shumipnimis atik, which is the inner of atik. Zohu ha'efresh bein hashamayim kisi shenim shochim al dei yisruso dilatato ba'arich ampin. And this is the difference between Shemayim Kisi. They come through Isarus Tato, Ba'arich Ampin, Laham Shicharak Michetzonis Atik. Alkein Nikro Kisi, that's why we call it Kisi. Kemoshal Hayosheb. Al Kisei, that's what we call Kisei. That is like one who sits like Kisei. That just the back extends on the Kisei. That's right now is Kisei. It's all in the way back. Well, that's what it says. You see my back in front of the Yiro, that Moshe Rabbeinu Davis showed him only Achorayim and not the back. But talk about the Shemaim Moritz Chadoshim Ksiv of this I'm them Lefonai, not the back. Lefonai Daike. Dafke the front. Sheheim Mipnim Isatik Shalamai Lamailu Lane Ketz Bechinas Acharaim Vichitzonius. They are much higher than the back of the Chitzonius. Other places it's explained that this comes higher than even the kav and the chut. What happens with the Shemaim V'Oretz of now? Because we have a new Shemaim V'Oretz, almost seems like we don't need anymore the Shemaim and Oretz. The avoid of Shemaim and Oretz is Sarusu de Latati, is Sarusu de Leilo, because we're getting from a higher place, not even where Sarusu de Latati can reach. So he says, Loi, she's battle legamri. Ragam Gamhem Yisalu Yamdu Lefonai Lemailo Maparsha. They too will stand before me higher than the parsha. Kiko Ace, right now, Hakol Birurim. Everything is to sort out. Over there, you don't need to sort out anymore. Why? So when today to do all the Birurim that we do, Yaluhem Gamkin Lefonai. They will all stand before me. V'ayin mashakosov kein zeh bepiyur al-posik v'oye mispar b'nei Yisrael shelo yisofer chulu u'bepirush haramaz b'midbar daf kuf yud zayin seif amudam. So he says, Cain, next word is Cain, right?
Yes, Cain.
Yeah? Cain,
Yeah, Cain.
Yeah. Cain, Yamad Zarachem Ksiv. So saying Ksiv, Ksiv, Oir Zorua La Tzadik, the light that is sown for the Tzadik, which means Shebechinas Tzadikim Zorua Lemoir Mikvar. Over there, it's already sown to them. It's Zorua. Balid Shuva says the Pasik. Zoireyal kol mayim, they sow on all waters, which means shezoirim tomid, they're constantly sowing. It's not in the past tense, but it's current. They're constantly zoireyal kol mayim. Al yidei shemahapchin chashoichel inahira chulu, through turning darkness to light. So the Novi promises them, all this is going to stand before me, canal. It's going to reach the higher madrege. Not that it's going to be bottle, but the Zarachem will be there. And same thing is Vishimchem. What is the Vishimchem? Ubechinas vayaz David Shem. Hainu ha'oretz yamid ha'oretz chulu adim ragloi yamid gamkin lefonai. That still was stand before me. V'ayim ha'shekosu v'divra ha'maschel aboyim yashresh shebechinas hazriyo zeu davke bebechinas eretz knesset Yisrael. Where can you sow? That's, you can sow only in the ground. What's the ground? The ground is Knesset Yisrael. V'zeu inyan v'shimchem. Your shimchem, your name, you're growing the yid, that stays. Then further the pasuk continues. V'hoyo midei chodesh v'chodshei midei Shabbos v'shabbatei. Pirush. Sheyesh beis. There are two levels in the elevations of the soul to stand before Hashem in this high madrege. Sheyesh sheyisalu legamru sheyamdu shom tamid. There are those that will be elevated, they'll stand there continuously. Balzen Nemar, and about that it says, Kain Yamud, Zarachem Vishimkam, that they will stand there, will stand. The Lo Yesh Lo Yisalu Lalus one of Tomid. There's those that are not going to be always there. Ki'im Midei Chodesh B'Chodshei, but when the Shabbos Yisalu Gam Hein L'Shtachvos L'Fonech Ulu, they too will be elevated to bow before me. Kitzer, Inyan HaShamayim HaChadoshim, Makifim U'Pnimim Chadoshim. From HaShamayim HaChadoshim, there are new Makif, new Pnimim, Shaloi Bo Adayim B'Shtalshlos. V'Nikroyim, Eimdim Lefonai L'Mayla Ma'Parse. They're called Eimdim Lefonai. They are higher than the Parsa. So basically, this will be a new Hamshocha. Everything will be elevated. The words, the Mamer to Pnimius Atik, but all the avodah that we do now, this will also be elevated with them. Side the Shemaim, some the Oretz, and then as he concludes over here, some the Shamas will be together, and all of them will stand on the Hayat Madrig. Oh, Hadron Alecha. So we concluded the Likutei Torah, including the Shir Hashirim. And as you say, when you finish something that you're going to return, Be'ezer Hashem, was not the pshat that we finished. We learned this is one little scratch of the trying to teach the words. But then we have to learn it and learn it and learn it and try to gain the more insight from all this. But anyways, this was a journey.
Yes, sure. Thank you.
And,
Thank you very much.